The subject of today's video is unbelievable. This past year in college football, he only had 11 catches and 1 touchdown, but he could find himself going in the first round of this year's draft here in a couple of weeks. Right now, he's seen as one of the biggest boom or bust prospects in this year's class, and has the potential to be an NFL great if he puts it all together, but also could be one of the biggest busts we have seen in a long time. In today's video, I want to highlight another draft prospect, and this time we're going to be talking about a tight end. We're going to go through his story, his meteoric rise, and how a guy who only had 2 career touchdowns in 4 years could be a first round pick. But before we get started, be sure to leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new and love football content, turn on notifications so you never miss when I upload, and let me know what topic I can cover next. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So you're probably wondering who the subject of today's video is, and it is none other than Oregon State tight end Luke Musgrave. But in order to understand how Musgrave got to this point, we need to go way back in time to the 1980s. 1987 was when his uncle Bill was the starting quarterback for the Oregon Ducks, and he went on to play in the NFL. He climbed up the coaching ladder and was recently the offensive coordinator for Cal. His dad was also a backup quarterback for Oregon as well, so you'd assume that he'd be an Oregon fan and a quarterback when he grew up, right? Well, he did play quarterback and actually was a fan of both the Ducks and the Beavers. He said, quote, "I've always just loved the state of Oregon's teams. I supported the local team, so I like the Ducks and the Beavers. I'd usually kind of root for the Beavers during the Civil War game just to be different than everybody else, and I was like, everybody roots for the Ducks, so I might as well root for the underdogs." When it came to his football career, Luke was somewhat of an underdog as well. He started out as quarterback, but that did not last long. He said in high school he started out by playing the position, but it just wasn't his thing. He liked to hit people, and you couldn't really do that at the quarterback spot, so he moved to receiver and then the tight end as he got bigger. His coach said, quote, "He was a late developer. Initially he came to high school as a quarterback and a defensive back, but it was obvious he was better as a receiver, so we approached him about making the switch, and he was willing to help the team." Ultimately, this ended up helping his career a lot, as he would transfer to Bend High School in Oregon, where he would move during his sophomore year of high school, as his family would leave Vancouver for the state of Oregon. Bend High School was nicknamed the Lava Bears, which I found pretty cool and is unique. For a while, he said he was merely hoping to get a walk-on offer at a school like Portland State, but after impressing coaches at a local camp, both Cal and Utah State became interested, and he built upon that momentum with a huge senior season. He ended up becoming first-team All-League at both tight end and defensive end, and caught 31 passes for 563 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also had 42 tackles as a defensive end, and started to get some recruiting momentum. During that unbelievable senior year, he led his school to a 5-3 record, before he would ultimately have a concussion that would cost him the final 2 games of that season. When it came time to choose a school, he chose the Beavers over Oregon, UCLA, and Cal, and despite his family's history with Oregon, he chose Oregon State, which was somewhat shocking. Why the Beavers? He said the coaches, the program, the players, and the school. It also felt like home, and at the time, Oregon had already signed Justin Herbert's little brother, who was a tight end in the 2019 class as well. Scouts were high on Musgrave, as he was an insane athlete, and his high school coach said they were just scratching the surface with how he could be used. What's also interesting is he was an insane athlete in high school, as he was a standout ski racer and lacrosse player while he was there. According to 24/7 Sports, Musgrave was the 3-star recruit, the number 37 tight end, and the 764th best player in the class of 2019. So, how would he end up doing at Oregon State? Well, in 2019, he catch 2 passes for 18 yards, as he was the 3rd-string tight end. In 2020, he'd end up breaking out, as he had 12 catches for 142 yards, and ended up starting 3 games for them. 2021 is when Musgrave would put his name on the map, as he'd catch 22 passes for 304 yards and a touchdown. So far in his career, he barely had over 30 catches, barely had over 500 yards, and only had 1 touchdown, but was seen as an NFL draft prospect because of his potential and his athleticism. If he could put it all together in 2022, he could not only be the next great Oregon State tight end, but maybe a first-round pick. So how'd he end up doing? Well, in his first 2 games, he'd catch 11 passes for 169 yards and a touchdown, before he'd end up getting hurt. His knee would end up screwing him over, and he'd have to miss the remainder of the season, and that would be the end of his Beaver career. In 4 years, he had 47 catches for 633 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that was in 34 games. By no means did he look like a big-time NFL draft prospect, but right now, some are saying he could be a first-round pick, and the consensus is that he'll be a mid-second round pick. He's widely considered one of the top tight ends in this year's draft class, with guys like Darnell Washington and Dalton Kincaid also up there. This is in large part because of his receiving abilities and his potential in terms of blocking. Oregon State hasn't had a first-round pick in the NFL draft since Brandon Cooks, but that drought could end this April. One scout said, quote, "Luke Musgrave absolutely looks the part. He's 6'5" and 255 pounds with an expansive wingspan and a massive pair of hands. Scouts also believe he's primed for a big workout this spring, sharing similar traits to Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert." So the title of this video is the most ridiculous draft prospect in 2023, and to a degree that is true. The fact that a player with such little production could go that high in the draft is mind-boggling, but that is how scouts operate, especially at the tight end position, where they're more worried about how you will fit and what potential you have in the NFL instead of what you did in college. Yes, he only had 2 career touchdowns, he was stuck behind 2 future NFL tight ends while he was there, and his last season was cut short due to injury, and you never know how good that could have finished for him. But either way, Musgrave is definitely a boomer bust prospect and could either be the next Travis Kelce or could be out of the league in the next 2 to 3 years. That I don't know, but I definitely enjoyed researching him, and I've always liked Oregon State football, so I'm excited to see what he does at the next level. But what do you guys think? If you're an Oregon State fan, what do you think of Musgrave? Who's another controversial draft prospect I could take a look at next? And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.